What's your experience with ultra-rich people that shocked you? Mine is upcoming cousin's wedding. His fiance's family is old money. They're having destination wedding out of town in a 5-star resort hotel. It's quite remote in the mountains surrounded by woods. They book rooms for 2 nights for family and 1 night for guests. Pretty normal, right? Well, I just found out today that it's not some rooms they've booked. They actually booked the whole resort for 2 days. All 212 rooms plus 10 villas. They book 'em all for this wedding cause her dad wants this to be that private. An out-of-touch story was during pandemic. The student I tutored told me one day she had to be home early cause she had her second vaccination at her house that day. At that time, second vaccination for Delta variant wasn't even out for health workers yet in my country. Her dad somehow managed to get him first cause he has connection with military and immigration people. My student told me with such ease while packing her stuff waiting for her driver, in an annoyed tone because she had to cancel her going out plan with her friends. She didn't even see anything wrong with what her dad did. For context, to get his hands on that vaccines before the health sector meant he did it through underhanded deals, which counts as corruption. It's not just assumptions. Everyone with a working mind here knows if they hear the story, corruption runs deep in my country. The head committee for corruption investigation was also convicted for corruption. My country has a huge problem with corruption, so yes, what he did was very wrong, especially on a time where even health workers were dying from COVID. Also on that note, I sound so bitter cause this student's parents, who supposedly are so damn wealthy, didn't pay me the last month's tutoring fee. I told her I wouldn't tutor her until her parents paid me, then said she wouldn't come again anyway cause she was gonna study abroad, and they all blocked me and never paid me now. Update 1. After reading some comments, I reassessed and I agree that the first one is just shocking, not out of touch. But some of you who say the second one isn't out of touch need to do self-reflection and think again what regular people would do normally in this scenario, without excess wealth. If you still think getting vaccines via corruption when people who needed them more were dying out there is normal, I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're part of the out-of-touch crowds. Update 2. Some of you say life isn't fair because given the same opportunity, you would do the same. Well, isn't it great to learn humans' true nature at the prospect of excess wealth? Being rich isn't bad. Lots of stories here about how rich people using their money to help people because it's spare change for them, they're still good people. Being rich and not aware of the privilege you have, and to achieve what you want through illegal deals, is what's wrong. But hey, that's my set of morals. You do you? After all, like someone here mentioned, normalcy is relative. Comment 1. We became friends with a rich couple because our children got along really well. For some reason they started to really like us as friends, even though we are lower middle class. We started getting invited to Christmas parties and events they put on. These were the kind of people who have a huge gated property with multi-car garage. The husband owns a bunch of online tourism websites or something really random. One day he's talking with me and he's asking what he can do for ideas for his parents' retirement. Not sure why my opinion mattered, but he seemed to really value it. Eventually we got to the conclusion he should buy his parents a self-sustaining business. Right then and there he decided to buy his parents a huge orchard farm worth millions that was already largely profitable. It was like it took no thought at all to just drop a few million to buy it for his dad. He ended up thanking me for my advice. LOL. I don't think I really contributed at all. Comment 2. I work at a private high school, and every year each class starts with an overnight class retreat. One year, we couldn't find a location that would take the junior class, so one of the parents just casually bought a summer camp, and the junior class had their retreat there. Comment 3. In college, talking about plans for winter break, my friend says their family is going skiing in Switzerland. They're planning to leave after her last final exam. I think what if she's delayed or something? And ask when the plane takes off. She gets confused and says when I get there. Turns out her family owns their own plane. They're flying in from their home to the airport near the college, and fueling up, and when she gets done and gets to the airport then it's off to Zurich. She was confused because the plane always takes off when she gets there. She's never flown commercial in her entire life. Comment 4. Used to play a team sports and do outdoors stuff with some guys regularly years ago. One of the guys was very well off, a few million, owned a chain of jewelry stores. Most of the guys did not even know. He did not flaunt it at all. He drove a beat-up truck, average gear, was modest and just a great guy. He never talked about it or anything. If you directly asked him, "Are you the guy?" he would admit it. He just did not talk about it or brag or anything. It only really came up twice that I saw. Once he showed up in a very nice BMW, his wife's car. His beat-up truck was in the shop. Another time, we were all volunteering working on an outdoor site, and it was hard work and we had missed lunch. He went out and brought back decent lunches for like 12 guys. Would not take money for it from anybody. I think the differences are, in many of the comments here, the rich people who were not jerks, were self-made, worked really hard, were not born into it. Comment 5. This one guy had a jar of snow in his bathroom labeled for guests. And it wasn't a small little lipstick-sized jar. It was, like, something you'd put Q-tips in. Another was just funny. He was excited about the $32 jacket he got at Costco. The guy was literally a billionaire, and was bragging about the deal he got on his jacket. Comment 6. They don't move furniture when they move. They leave it at the old house and just buy new shit for their new house. Effing blew my mind. Comment 7. I worked quite closely with the CEO of a multinational corporation. Not sure how much cash he had, but on paper, he was worth billions if selling all of his shares, etc. What shocked me was how lovely he was, very down-to-earth, had nice things but was warm and generous. Still 5 years later, if he is local to me, he reaches out to see if I want to go for dinner or a drink and messages out of the blue to see how I am doing. The shock is that I expected him to be a real stuck-up asshole that had no idea how normal people lived, but he was the opposite. Comment 8. Self-made million. Billionaires have two modes. 1. Gregarious, warm, intelligent, funny. 2. Takes the light bulbs out of your office if he stops by and your lights are on, but you're not in the room. Comment 9. The rich guy I know very well owns a series of hardware stores in the Midwest and has a NASCAR team. Multi-billionaire level. He was the cheapest person I've ever met and torn up clothes on the daily. Cheap daily vehicles. Act. Also, he was super nice. You wouldn't and didn't know who he was until I was introduced. Comment 10. The first and last time I had an ultra-rich friend from true privilege was at university. Don't get me wrong, I do think she was a nice girl and we had good times, but I think we eventually realized our backgrounds were making us incompatible. The last time I hung out with her, she was talking about her trip to Tuscany, which looked absolutely delightful on her social media. I was asking her questions about it and ventured how I would love to go to Italy someday. She suddenly burst out laughing, the rich people laugh, and said, "What do you mean you have never been to Italy? Just rent a villa, they're so cheap." That was about 9 years ago now and I am still yet to follow her advice. That's it for today. Please share your stories about ultra-rich people in the comments.